My name is Victor. I am the Occult Technician, and this is Mind War, Season 6, Episode 1.
Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War. Join the Mind War today. Enlist at patreon.com/mindwar. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to Mind War, folks. I appreciate you being here. We have a lot to cover today, so let's get started. Folks, welcome back to Mind War. Mind War Season 6. I'm so excited that we made it this far. I'm so proud of all the work that we've put in throughout the Gateway Experience program, the series that we're working on now. And in Season 6, we're going to be finishing up with the Gateway Experience series by working through Waves 7 and 8, the last two waves of the Gateway Experience program. And before we jump into those tapes, I had to find something to cover throughout this season, because in Seasons 3, 4, and 5, we read through Robert Monroe's books, his 3-book trilogy. It was an amazing journey. We learned so much valuable information about the thought processes of Robert Monroe, the creator of the Gateway Experience program. And it was a very good way to get detailed information about what he was thinking, what he was going through, and why he created the tapes in the first place. And I really think we were able to put away a lot of the conspiracies and the lore that goes along with the Gateway Experience tapes. We were able to bring some truth to these tapes and move beyond just the conspiracies that these tapes were used to spy on American enemies by our intelligence and military officials, right? We got to the heart of the tapes and understood that the first 4 waves were really about self-help. That was the most important thing that we took from the tapes. We healed our mind, body, and spirit. Then we found, starting with Wave 5 through Wave 8, we are starting on sort of a different mission, and that is not necessarily just self-help, but helping others. And the others that we're going to be helping are people who have already passed away. It took a very interesting path to where we're going now. But again, for Season 6, I thought, what better thing to do than to continue to highlight the conspiracies that have surrounded these tapes and maybe bring some truth to them. And so I'm excited to announce what we're going to be working through here in Season 6 is called Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process by Lieutenant Colonel Wayne M. McDonnell. Okay. So many of you have probably heard about this assessment of the tapes. You've probably seen it all over social media. It's really huge right now. I'm seeing countless videos, not only about the Gateway Experience tapes, but of this report right here. A report that supposedly was done by the CIA. Again, kind of misinformation. We're going to clear all that up while we go through this series. But again, I'm excited to announce that we're going to be reading through this analysis report. And I will do my best to put links to this in the description of this video. You can find it directly on the CIA.gov website. But let's go ahead and get started. And again, we're going to see if we can put some of these conspiracies to bed and get a better understanding of what this report really means. Okay. So this is analysis and assessment of the gateway process, a complete and unabridged, including the missing page 25. Okay, that'll be interesting. Let's see what that is all about. So this was again written by Wayne M. McDonnell, a lieutenant colonel of the Army. It was written on June 9th, 1983. Okay, so the original assessment was written in 1983. Sounds like maybe about a decade after the tapes had really been created and in development. You know, this was the early stages of Robert Monroe's work. It really caught the eye, right? This report was declassified on September 10th, 2003. Interesting day. And it was restored in June 19th, 2022. Okay, so we have a table of contents here, and it says editor's note, subject, analysis and assessment of the gateway process. And then it says here, the gateway experience, brain hemisphere synchronization in perspective. Okay, and now we're going to read through the different chapters or sections that we're going to read through in this report. Number 1, introduction. 2, hypnosis. 3, transcendental meditation. 4, biofeedback. 5, gateway and hemi-sync. Number 6, lamp versus laser. Number 7, frequency following response. Number 8, role of resonance. Number 9, brain stimulation. 10, energy entrainment. Number 11, consciousness and energy. Number 12, holograms. Number 13, the part encodes the whole. Number 14, the consciousness matrix. 15, brain in phase. 16, evaluation. 17, self-cognition. 18, time-space dimension. Number 19, intervening dimensions. 20, subatomic particles. 21, dimensions in between. Number 22, special status, out-of-body experience. Number 23, absolute in perspective. Number 24, from Big Bang to Taurus. Okay. Number 25, our place in time. Number 26, quality of consciousness. Number 27, consciousness in perspective. 28, the gateway method. 29, hemi-sync introduced. 30, advanced techniques. 31, the out-of-body movement. 32, role of REM sleep. 33, information collection potential. That's an interesting one. Number 34, belief systems considerations. Number 35, left brain limitations. 36, self-knowledge. 37, motivational aspects. And number 38, conclusion. So those are all the different sections that we're going to read through in this report. A lot of interesting information. So let's get started here with the editorial note. The editorial note says this: when this document, written in 1983, was declassified in 2003, it contained a mysterious error. Oh boy, let's get to the bottom of the error. The entirety of page 25 of the original document was missing. Bum, bum, bum. Page 25 in the original occurs after significant buildup of discussions of the possible meaning and ramifications of the view of reality implied by the experiences that are a normal part of the Gateway Voyage program and contain crucial conclusions. This omission spawned much discussion and not a small amount of conspiracy speculation among many readers. So again, not only is this report itself part of the conspiracy, but now there's missing page 25 that adds to it. And again, our goal is to kind of clear those conspiracies up and get to the reality of these things. Here's what I found, folks. And I think you'll have to agree as we've gone through this 9 months so far, and as we come to the conclusion and do our entire year breakdown of the Gateway Experience tapes, I think you'll find that the tapes themselves and the books that Robert Monroe had written, They're so much more powerful than the conspiracies themselves. The conspiracies pale in comparison to the reality of the tapes. That's the beauty of what we're doing here, right? That's why we're not just surface level thinkers. We go deep into this information. We at Integral Text Publishing are proud to present, published for the first time in its complete form, the fully restored, unabridged document, including the legendary missing page 25, with its fascinating conclusions on the absolute and the nature of universal reality. That's right, folks. We have page 25 right here in my hands. For those who care to know, the famous missing text begins in paragraph 34, Belief System Considerations. Very interesting chapter, folks. With the words absolute as the model around which the evolution of time-space revolves, and contains the entirety of paragraphs 35, left brain limitations, and 36, self-knowledge. The originally available text resumes with the beginning of paragraph 37, motivational aspects. Again, some editorial notes here. Finally, we note that we have opted to format this text to simulate the typewritten original. The original was split into paragraphs whose numbering had been retained for historical purposes. However, we found that these often very long paragraphs were not the most pleasant to read. So we have taken the liberty of inserting paragraphs, breaks where we see them appropriate, while maintaining the original numbering. We have made minor typographical corrections where appropriate, and have included a table of contents. We chose to retain the original underline of the paragraph titles, mostly because we thought it was quaint and somehow adorable. So basically what they're saying here is, in order to protect and maintain the historical aspects of this document, they've done everything that they could to recreate it in its original form. And again, they chose to maintain the things like the underlining of the paragraph titles because they thought it was quaint and somehow adorable. Two words that perfectly describe your friend Victor here, quaint and adorable. And, you know, one of the things that I thought about when I was reading that, and they said, you know, the paragraphs were very long, probably a little rambling. If this report was written the same way how you and I, when we get done with the Gateway Experience tapes, as soon as we're done experiencing one of the tapes, we start taking our notes. And I've found that note-taking process, especially when you are in the throes of the enhancements of psilocybin, it's almost like self-writing, where you are channeling the words through you. I find that when I write about my experiences after the tapes, my body just kind of has to take over, and I just allow my hand to write. Of course, the psilocybin is having an effect. You'll see that if you use psilocybin and try to use your phone or something like that, it's very difficult to do. But with writing, I find I just let my hand go, and it does start to ramble over time. So I'm wondering if that's how this report came to be as well. It goes on here. It says, the interested reader will be delighted to know that we are preparing a version of this document which is fully automated or annotated with commentary and other pertinent material to be made available later in the year. The program described herein is available as an in-person or virtual retreat called the Gateway Voyage. Okay. So again, the MZOO Institute offers this program for in-person or virtual retreats, and they call it the Gateway Voyage, or as a home study course called the Gateway Experience. And of course, we're doing this from home. We've talked about this before in the past, that, you know, visiting the MZOO Institute, I'm sure it would be very cool, but it's probably not the setting as we've heard from other people who've actually gone and went to the Monroe Institute and did the program for a week long, it just doesn't seem like a setting that's going to be very, functional and realistic for getting these tapes to work. You can't just listen to these tapes 2 times a day in a strange room with a stranger sleeping in the bed next to you without any enhancements or preparation and trying to do it, timed out on someone else's schedule. That's not how this works. You have to do it when you're ready. You have to prepare for it in the comfort of your own home. You have to, if you are healthy enough and are able to, add the enhancements of psilocybin and THC to make these tapes really blast off and get the true full experience. But again, it's they have the option of the home study course called the Gateway Experience, and of course, that's what we're doing. An asynchronous online version of the Gateway Experience in which you are led through the exercises with the Monroe Institute trainer is also available. You can register for these and other programs by visiting monroeinstitute.org. There, you can also explore the vast Monroe Institute archive and download free audio meditations using Monroe Sound Science. To all explorers of consciousness, may this fascinating document help you to ever expand your own understanding of who you really are. That was written by Sky Peltier, Waterpiece, Integral Text Publishing, June 19th, 2022. Again, the editor of this report, their name is Sky Peltier, Waterpiece. Waterpeace. I've never seen the word Waterpiece before, or the name Waterpiece. I thought that was awesome. And then their first name is Sky. Sounds like a very interesting individual. So that was the editorial note from Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process. All right, folks, let's dive into the introduction of the analysis and assessment of the Gateway Process. And right away, we're going to break one of those conspiracy theories. Okay, so what you're going to see online when anyone talks about this report, you're going to see it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. It's all over the place right now. It's really blowing up, right? And you're going to see this labeled as a CIA report, Central Intelligence Agency report, on the Gateway Experience program. That is not what this is, okay? This report was classified at one time, right? And it was approved for release by the CIA on, September 10th, 2003, right? So again, it was approved for release, but we're about to hear who actually wrote this report and why it was requested. Okay, and we're going to start at the top of the document here, Department of the Army. That's right, folks. This is not a CIA report. This is a report from the Department of the Army, U.S. Army Operational Group, U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command. That's ultimately who these gentlemen worked for, was the UAINSCOM, U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command. Okay. This was in Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. It was written June 9th, 1983. The subject, analysis and assessment of the Gateway Process. 2. Commander, U.S. Army Operational Group, Fort Meade, Maryland. Again, this was written by Lieutenant Colonel Wayne M. McDonnell, and here's what he has to say in the introduction. You tasked me to provide an assessment of the Gateway Experience in terms of its mechanics and ultimate practicality. As I set out to fulfill that task, it soon became clear that in order to assess the validity and practicality of the process, I needed to do enough supporting research and analysis to fully understand how and why the process works. Okay. He goes on to say, frankly, sir, That proved to be an extremely involved and difficult business. That's right, folks. What we're doing here in the Mind War through the Gateway Experience program is absolutely extremely involved and difficult business. We do have to treat this like a business in some ways. You have to set deadlines for yourself. You have to schedule this work on your own. No one else is going to force you to do this, and you are the only person who's going to reap the rewards, okay? And of course, it is extremely involved. It's time consuming, it can be physically exhausting, and it's emotionally demanding. But you're up for it. You wouldn't have made it this far if you weren't. Initially, based on conversations with a physician who took the Gateway training with me, I had recourse to the biomedical models developed by Itzhak Bentov to obtain information concerning the physical aspects of the process. Okay, so Itzhak Bentov, I looked him up earlier, an Israeli-American biomedical engineer who looks like he was assisting Lieutenant Colonel McDonnell. It looks like they were going through this together, the Gateway Experience tapes, at the same time, and they were bouncing their research off of each other. Then I found it necessary to delve into various sources of information concerning quantum mechanics in order to be able to describe the nature and functioning of human consciousness. Okay, so it looks like he goes pretty deep in this report here. I had to be able to construct a scientifically valid and reasonably lucid model of how consciousness functions under the influence of the brain hemisphere synchronization technique employed by Gateway. Once this was done, the next step involved recourse to theoretical physics in order to explain the character of the time-space dimension and the means by which expanded human consciousness transcends it in achieving Gateway's objectives. Okay. Again, he's getting deep in the weeds here, folks. If that's something that interests you for study, go for it. That's great. I would be excited to hear about your research deeper into these things. But understand, as explorers of the Gateway, you don't have to necessarily understand every aspect of quantum physics. That is not required here, okay? It's nice to maybe understand a little bit about how this stuff works, but most importantly, first and foremost, it's all in your imagination. Finally, I again found it necessary to use physics to bring the whole phenomenon of out-of-body states into the language of physical science to remove the stigma of its occult connotations and put it in a frame of reference suited to objective assessment. Let me read that again. He needed to use the language of physical science to remove the stigma of its occult connotations. This is why I am the occult technician. I am taking a scientific path towards understanding occultism. And even here, we have a commander of U.S. Army intelligence saying to us and understanding that the Gateway experience comes from the realm of occultism, of a hidden science, of hidden things that, science and society and culture and religion, they just can't explain it yet. And that's why we find difficulty when we're trying to share this information with others, because again, the already formed belief systems, they often put up barriers towards this type of information. Again, that's why we search the occult. That's why we work through it. There's no more hiding. We're bringing it to light. I began the narrative by briefly profiling the fundamental biomedical factors affecting such related techniques as hypnosis, biofeedback, and transcendental meditation, so that their objectives and mode of functioning could be compared in the reader's mind with the gateway experience as the model of its underlying mechanics was developed. Additionally, that introductory material is useful in supporting the conclusions of the paper. I indicate that at times these related techniques may provide useful entry points to accelerate movement into the gateway experience. Again, I think we read that the Monroe Institute says that hypnosis is not a part of the gateway experience tapes, and I think we've debunked that quite thoroughly. And again, we see it here in this report that the techniques used in the gateway experience are hypnosis, biofeedback, and transcendental meditation. Okay. Again, these are all studies, all subjects that you've wanted to learn. These are the answers that you've been asking for. What is hypnosis? What is biofeedback? What is transcendental meditation? How does it work? And I'm telling you, throughout my studies, the beauty of what I found is the lie that we're told, which is that one of these things can work on their own. That's not how it works, folks. We add all of these things together. That's the key. You have to learn all of these different disciplines. And then when we learn, again, white magic through science that we're doing here, we can then apply what we've learned here into the black magic of spirituality, of rituals, of going through week after week, month after month, year after year, committing to this process, okay? It goes on to say, Niels Bohr, the renowned physicist, once responded to his son's complaints about the obtuse nature of certain concepts in physics by saying, "You're not thinking. You are merely being logical. The physics of altered human consciousness deals with some conceptualizations that are not easily grasped or visualized exclusively in the context of ordinary left brain linear thinking." So, to borrow Dr. Bohr's mode of expression, parts of this paper will require not only logical, but a touch of right brain intuitive insight to achieve a complete, comfortable grasp of the concepts involved. Nevertheless, once that is done, I am confident that their construction and application will stand up to the test of rational critique. So again, he's telling us that our left brain, the conscious part of our brain, it does mathematics. It looks at information like this and breaks it down into categories. It drives us through life. It is the driver of our physical body. It, again, that left brain is often in kind of competition with the right brain. That's the part that controls our body. That's where our animal instincts come from. That's where we spend our time thinking about being hungry and tired and all of the other physical requirements of being alive, right? And so we also find in that right brain is where we have creativity, where we have our intuition, where we have our imagination. And so Lieutenant Colonel McDonald does say here, you have to use a little right brain imagination when reading this report if you want to fully grasp it. Paradoxically, having gone to such great lengths to avoid trying to render judgment based on an occult or dogmatic frame of reference, in the end, I found it necessary to return, at least briefly, to the question of the impact of the gateway experience on common belief systems. Oh boy, folks. What he just said there in that sentence, that very long and rambling sentence, was again, we have occult and dogmatic and esoteric, labels placed on the work that we're doing here. And because of that, the organizations, corporations, and institutions that pollute our minds, poison our bodies, and corrupt our souls stand up against it. This flies in the face of everything that they tell us. They tell us that we cannot be spiritual. We tell us that there is no truth to any of these things. That life is actually much more just about toiling in the physical and trying to survive as long as you can in order to make as much money, right? And we know that that is not true. And what happens is when someone of Lieutenant Colonel McDonald's stature in the military, when they start working on things that may be occultic or esoteric, they run into a lot of hurdles because it goes against what the Lieutenant Colonel here calls common belief systems. And he goes on to say this: I did so because although it was essential to avoid attempting to render an assessment in the context of such systems, I felt that it was necessary after having completed the analysis to point out that the resulting conclusions do not do any violence to the fundamental mainstream of either Eastern or Western belief systems. He walked the fine line while reporting on the Gateway experience. He walked that fine line to make sure that the information he provided us did not sway into the occult or esoteric realms, because he didn't want to cause violence to the fundamental mainstream of Eastern and Western belief systems, because those systems are so weak and so fragile that just talking about things that are outside of them could make them fucking crumble. And that's exactly what we're doing here in the Mind War. We're doing the opposite of what Lieutenant Colonel McDonald just said. We're going up against those systems. It's why we do this work. The purpose is to destroy those systems that are holding us down, that are lying to us, that are stealing from us, that are draining us of every aspect of our beings that make us truly amazing. Unless that point is clearly established, the danger exists that some people will reject the whole concept of the Gateway experience in the mistaken belief that it contradicts and is therefore alien to all that they hold to be right and true. Wrong and false, motherfuckers. You got it wrong. This work that we do here does provide a danger to the clearly established common belief systems. We're going up against them. We're no longer going to be held back by the lies and fear that they hold us down with. This study is certainly not designed to be the last word on the subject, but I hope that the validity of its basic structure and the fundamental concepts upon which it is based will make it a useful guide to other USAINSCOM personnel who are required to take the Gateway training or work with Gateway materials. Again, U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command personnel who were required to take the Gateway training. That's right, folks. It wasn't just Lieutenant Colonel McDonald here, or McDonnell. It sounds to me like there were all sorts of other DOD personnel who were required to train with the Gateway experience tapes. Maybe those were members of the 1st Earth Battalion. You see how it's all coming together here, folks? You see what we're doing? We started with the book Mind War. Then we moved to the 1st Earth Battalion. Now we're working on the Gateway Experience program. Next, we'll be going into magic. I hope everyone's following along because we're just getting started. That was the end of the introduction by Lieutenant Colonel McDonald from the analysis and assessment of the Gateway process. This is that document that you've seen so much about. So many conspiracy theories were connected to it. We're already breaking some of those conspiracy theories down. This is not a CIA document, as the internet told you. It may have been authorized for release by the CIA, but this was ultimately a Department of Defense document. And it's going to be so exciting to go through the remainder of this document as we move through the rest of this season. We will be doing a deep dive into Wave 7 Voyager Tape 1 Explore Total Self after a word from our sponsor.
Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War.
All right, welcome back, folks. Let's start our deep dive into Wave 7 Voyager Tape 1 Explore Total Self. Folks, we made it. Wave 7. This is amazing. Totally different. Okay? We start off, we have a new narrator, AJ Honeycutt. Okay, we talked about him before. This was Robert Monroe's stepson, son of Nancy Monroe. His voice, through the recording techniques, because this was done later in the 2000s, his voice is like butter. It is crystal clear. It is very different than Robert Monroe's. It is very different than Nancy Monroe's. AJ Honeycutt has the perfect voice for narrating meditation tapes, and you'll see that, right? The sounds also very different. We again have moved away from waves 5 and 6, the sounds that we heard there. These are a far departure from the sounds that we heard in waves 1 through 4, where you could hear Robert Monroe literally like hitting the tape player and flipping switches and things like that. It was very mechanical. These sounds are very digital in these new tapes and these new waves. And let me tell you, they have perfected it. These sounds shoot you into focus so much faster. It really, truly is amazing. It really is amazing. These tapes were wild, and let's get into them. The purpose of this series is to assist you in knowing through direct experience that you are truly more than your physical body. It's through this knowledge that I hope you will live more fully and consciously during your time here in this Earth life system. As you know, you can move through these exercises at your own pace. Most important, as Bob would say, have fun. Through this exercise, you will gain a better understanding of your total self. In it, you explore the purpose for living this physical life with the assistance of one within you, the one who is your closest friend, your ally, the one who knows and understands you better than you realize. This is your inner helper. One who can help you in many, many ways. So right away, I thought that was very interesting. He's saying, listen, we're going to meet our inner helper, this kind of other spirit within ourselves, right? We know of our conscious mind. We know less about our unconscious mind. Maybe is it our ego? What is it? What is he talking about? And remember a few episodes back, I talked about one of the tapes as I was, it was exploring sleep, the tape 1-5, where they don't wake you up at the end and you just fall asleep. And I remember my conscious mind and my physical body were falling into unconscious sleep, but I could see another part of me floating backwards. And he was basically saying, bye, I'll see you later. I'm about to go have fun. And my conscious mind was saying, wait a minute, I want to go with him. Where's he going? He's falling into the abyss. Maybe that's who this inner helper is. So we're going to get into Focus 21. We've perfected getting into Focus 21 in the last series. It says, now from Focus 21, reach in and ask for help. Ask for help from one within you who is your closest friend, the one who knows and understands you better than you realize. One who can help you in many, many ways, the one who is your inner helper. Keep thinking of your desire to meet and know this greater part of your inner total self. Keep thinking of this desire until contact is made and communication begins. You can do this calmly and easily. Keep stating this desire in your mind. Start now. That's exactly what I did. It's so weird. It's you just follow the instructions. Just do what the narrator says. And I asked, again, I'm floating there in the darkness, the white static light of my spirit body is floating around me. And I'm asking, I'm saying in my mind that I have a desire to meet this inner helper. And we'll go here in a minute about what I wrote after listening to the tapes, but I will start with this. The inner helper of mine responded with the title of The Mentor. So I thought that was interesting. They called themselves The Mentor. Like your inner helper, what is the relationship between the two of you? Ask how your inner helper came into being. Ask about any physical lifetimes this part of you may have lived. Ask your inner helper how many physical lifetimes you have lived. Ask your inner helper what are the 3 most important lifetimes you have lived. Look, what is the purpose of living a physical human life here in earth, time, and space? What is your goal in living this physical life? Ask how you can best achieve your goal. So now that we've met the mentor, we're supposed to be asking it about our physical life, how many lives we've lived in the past, what is the purpose of life. There was a lot in these questions, we hear a lot of the theory of reincarnation. Again, this idea of how many physical lives has our spirit lived? How many times have we been alive before? As you know, throughout this series, I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation the way that it is taught to us. And this tape really helped solidify and clarify that for me. So reincarnation states that once our soul leaves the body, the exact same soul and spirit that animates us today, that makes us who we are, our conscious soul spirit, can then return from the dead and go exactly the same way that it is into another physical body and live another physical life. And I just don't believe that. I don't believe that's how this works, okay? But what is reincarnation? Why is it such a huge topic? Why has it been looked at throughout so many belief systems throughout all of, human existence almost, right? And what I was told was this, and I'll do my best to explain it, but this is what I wrote after listening to the tapes. Life is linear, passed on through the physical, passed on by the physical body by generations. We as individuals are the whole of our ancestors. The whole of our ancestors, we reincarnate the physical through birth. The spirit, that is the thinking logical side of our brain. And it has a special place, a wonderful purpose after death, which is the story of life. That is its purpose. Okay. The idea of reincarnation comes from the spirit, the side of us that is our right brain, our physical brain, right? Because our physical brain and our physical body, one of the most important goals and desires, because again, it was asking, what are these desires to know? One of the most important things of the physical body is to continue living, right? Survival. And so one aspect of your physical body and that right brain that drives you, whether you logically want to or not, again, is survival. And we want to keep ourselves alive as long as possible and things like that, right? But we get caught up and mired in this desire to keep the physical body alive. That's why we come up with stories of reincarnation, because our physical body is so afraid of dying. But you have to realize, once you have procreated, once you have reproduced, and once you have spawned a new human being, your reincarnation cycle is complete. Reincarnation is a story made up by our physical body. It's not the spirit body. The spirit body is already eternal. It's not afraid of death. The physical body is afraid of death and it fears dying. That's why we came up with this idea of reincarnation. Again, reincarnation is reproduction. So get out there and reproduce, folks. What are you waiting for? Have as many children as you can. They're amazing. They're awesome. They give your life purpose. Okay? I mean, your buddy Vic here, I'm not asking for much. Go out and have kids. I mean, that's great. It's the same thing. Same thing with self-help. I'm not telling you to go to a fucking therapist and do all kinds of bullshit work. I'm telling you to take the enhancements of THC and psilocybin, listen to the Gateway Experience tapes, go do a little magic through your spiritual ceremonies. That's how you're going to fucking heal yourself. That's how you're going to heal your mind, body, and spirit. It's not going to be in some fucking doctor's office. And you can deal with the reincarnation, you can deal with pending death by having some damn kids. Go do it, man. What the fuck are you waiting for? Let's see, anything else here? To finish off the tape here, it says, give thanks for the information you've received and release your inner helper. Move now to normal focus 21. So again, you're going to say goodbye to your helper. You're going to tell them how much you appreciate all the information they've provided you. And I can't wait to hear what they tell you. I can't wait for you to meet your inner helper. And I really hope that you share what you find. Again, these tapes, you get new sounds, very intense. They work very quickly. I don't remember a lot of visuals with this one, but stay tuned for the next episode, folks, because holy shit. Wave 7, Tape 2, have I got a story for you. But before we finish up with today's episode, again, that was Wave 7 Voyager, Tape 1, Explore Total Self. We met the mentor. They told us that reincarnation is a story told to us by our physical body and its fear of death. So we make up this idea of reincarnation that our spirit body is going to come back. It's not. The spirit body is eternal. Once it leaves, it's going to go off and do its own thing. So don't worry about that reincarnation. We've already talked about how to get out of the reincarnation trap. We've talked about our mission to destroy whatever is keeping us here. I'm excited to hear about your inner helper. Again, Wave 7 Voyager, Tape 1, Explore Total Self. And before we finish with today's episode, I just have another piece of information for you that we'll cover in just a moment. All right, welcome back, folks. Let's wrap up today's episode. So at the end of Season 5, I told all of you about my mother and her cancer diagnosis. So It's not my goal to come on here week after week and give you updates about what's going on with her condition. That's not the purpose of what we're doing right now. Okay. If anything comes up that I feel like I should share with you about her personal struggle, I will. If her personal struggle and the situation that we're in right now changes and we find ourselves being led in a new path through the program, through this Gateway Experience series, I'll let you know. But something occurred already that I thought I should bring up, okay? So, as you know, I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I am treated by the Veterans Administration, so the VA hospital. So I don't really have to deal with the American healthcare system, okay? I go to the hospital, I get treated, and I go home. I don't pay anything. I don't worry about bills. I get treated for whatever my ailments are. I love the VA. They take amazing care of me. Wonderful people. But in helping my mother over these last few weeks, I've had to, delve into the American health insurance or healthcare insurance, system that we have here, right? And so here's what happened. A doctor prescribed my mom a nebulizer. So a nebulizer is a small plastic box. It has a little electrical engine in it. And basically, you connect a breathing tube to it. And at the end of the tube, there's a little breathing apparatus that you put in your mouth and you breathe through the tube. In the mouthpiece, there's a tiny little cup that you can put liquid medication into the cup. And the nebulizer takes that liquid medication and it aerosolizes it and it makes it into a mist. So then you breathe the medication into the lungs and it helps soothe them. So mom got her prescription and it came in two forms, one for the nebulizer, one for the medication. So as soon as we left the doctor's, I dropped her off at home and then I went back to the pharmacy. Within about 10 minutes and about $10 later, I left with the liquid medication. I drove down the street to the local medical supply store, and that's where the story begins. I say, ladies, my mom was prescribed a nebulizer. Here's her information. Can you pull it up? So they pull up her information. They see a valid prescription. They tell me that they have the nebulizer device there, and they're clacking away on their little computer, creating her account for this medical supply store. In doing so, that took about 15 minutes, no big deal. But in doing so, they said, sir, we're really sorry, but we're having trouble finding the correct diagnosis code. And because of that, you're not going to be leaving here today with the nebulizer. That was where I began to become upset, right? Now, I didn't really know what a nebulizer was. So I just said, okay, fine. This, piece of crucial medical equipment must be very, complicated and valuable. So I'm just going to let the process go. They said, listen, we've put in a note to the doctor. We're going to have the correct diagnosis and it'll be ready tomorrow. Okay. I go back home. I call the very next morning. Yes, sir. The nebulizer is ready. We have the correct diagnosis code. Today, when you come in, it'll be $1.49 for you to leave with the nebulizer. I said, I'm on my way. 15 minutes later, I arrive at the medical supply store. I sit down in front of the ladies at their terrible little cubicle in this awful, awful building. Stained carpets, falling down tiles. Looks like it was built in the 80s and hasn't been redesigned since. Smells like farts and BO and a dirty microwave, right? Very disgusting. Not to, talk bad about the people that work there. That wasn't my goal here. Okay, sorry. Let me get back on track. So I go in and I say, ladies, I'm back. It's the next day. I'm here to pick up my mom's nebulizer. Oh, have a seat, sir. we're having trouble with the diagnosis code. Again, I called earlier in the morning and they said, come on down. So I sit down, and about a half hour later, they call me up to the desk. They say, we have the correct diagnosis code. All we need now is your credit card information. They pulled the nebulizer out. It was in a small cardboard box and set it on the desk. And I said, okay, we're getting close. We're getting somewhere. So I give them my credit card information and they say, today we're going to charge you $55. And I go, I didn't even mention that the day before they told me it was going to be $1.49 or earlier that morning. I didn't care. That's not the type of guy I am. I'm not going to start fighting with these fucking people because all I want to do is leave with the nebulizer so I can provide it to my mother so she can get some desperately needed relief. So I say, okay, no problem. Here's my credit card. And they put all my information into their unsecured computer and they charge me $55. And they say, we're going to charge you $25 a month every month for the next 13 months, and then you'll own it. Holy fucking shit. Okay, this must be some really interesting device that it's going to cost me $500 something by the end of me basically leasing to own this fucking nebulizer, right? So I leave. All that mattered was getting it home to mom to get her treatments. So I get home, I unbox it, we set it all up. She's in bed, all nice and comfy. We get the medication flowing. She's doing the breathing treatment. She comes down a few minutes later. She's feeling so much better already, and I'm happy. But of course, I'm looking at this little device going, damn, $500 for this fucking thing. What is this? So I flip it over. I take a picture of the barcode and the serial number, and I start to Google it. And what did I find? The exact same brand, model number, serial number, everything, the exact same nebulizer device was found on countless websites for $40 or less. $40 was the most expensive one that I could find. 40 fucking bucks. Why in the fuck are we using medical insurance, healthcare insurance, if it's making a fucking device that costs $40 end up being $500? What the fuck is going on, America? We're just weeks away. Just a few weeks in the past, a young man gunned down the CEO of a healthcare insurance company in the fucking streets of New York. Is this why? Is this what the fuck is going on? Is this what the insurance industry in America is? Is this what healthcare in America is? Again, I didn't know much about it because, thank God, thank Uncle Sam, that the VA takes good care of me. I didn't know that this is what my fellow citizens and my fellow Americans were going through. This is what I talk about when I talk about the organizations, corporations, and institutions. This is what I mean. This is not going to go on for much longer, folks. These institutions are going to crumble. We're going to destroy every fucking one of them. And we're not going to do it with violence. And we're not going to do it with all kinds of crazy bullshit. We're going to do it with logic and reasoning, and we're going to fucking destroy them. We're going to make America healthy again. God fucking damn it. So thank you for listening to that. I appreciate you allowing me to vent. The last few days have been very difficult. Today's actually a Thursday. I'm recording this on a Thursday. I should have recorded this episode on a Monday, but the last few days, like I said, I have been bottling up all of these feelings, all of this rage, all of this sadness. Your friend Victor here's been doing a little crying the last few days. Finally, well-needed therapeutical emotional releases. And I was pretty fucking outraged by what happened. And I thought I would share that with you. Are things like this occurring in your life that are fucking outraging you too? I hope not, but if they are, please share them. Share your story, however you can, to whoever you can. Only then will we be able to bring the organizations, corporations, and institutions that pollute our minds, poison our bodies, and corrupt our souls. Only then can we bring them to their knees. And maybe they can experience some of the suffering that they cause to others. I appreciate you being here. And as always, remember, folks, harden your hearts and open your minds, because this is Mind War.